1 week season.
Guys, today, Stat is eyeing the spot for Jalen Hurts. Think this could be a blow-up spot this week for him in Big D there at Jerry World. We're going to talk about it on today's DFS Lab. Guys, welcome in. He is StatATL. I am Cheeseman, your host. And, of course, this is the DFS Lab presented by 1 week season, where we go over the upcoming slate. Looking ahead to week 12, going to build the DraftKings lineup. As you guys know the drill by now, if you could give a like to this video, subscribe to the channel, we would absolutely love that. And with that, StatATL, how you doing, my man? How was your weekend? And how's things going?
Yeah, man, weekend was good. It was a fine week. No big hits for me, but I played probably 60% of my exposure this past weekend was to Jacoby Brissett with McBride, and then a majority of them were doubles with one of Wilson or Dortch, and I had several triples. I thought I had a real shot at the afternoon only with a Brissett triple with CMC and Kittle. So
nice work on
had six spots all absolutely smashed. I think those six guys got 180 points between the six of them. So was doing quite well. I think that roster ended with 225 points in afternoon only. So it had a chance, but I think the winning build in afternoon only played Derrick Henry and the Cleveland D, and they were playing against each other. And that's kind of a rule that I have when I build lineups, is that I just don't do yardage and touchdown backs like Derrick Henry, who doesn't catch passes, against the defense that I'm playing. Because generally, if the defense that you're playing is doing really well, a yardage and touchdown back like Derrick Henry, who's expensive. I guess he wasn't expensive. He was 6,500 or something. Not typically a spot where he's going to get there. So
yeah,
it could have been, but it didn't get there.
Even if you go all the way into the showdown format, where it's playing a defense, you almost have to sometimes play defenses against, anytime you play a defense, it's even then against a yardage and touchdown back specifically, they're negatively correlated, I'm pretty sure. And so, that's a once in a, that's not going to happen very often. So what did you finish? Did it have a fairly solid finish with the 220, or was it pretty high? I mean, I guess afternoon only was probably pretty high scoring.
Yeah, it was decent. I had a couple rosters afternoon only and main slate that finished with 220 points, or I think 217 or more. I think I had 6 rosters that were 217 or more. So it was fine, but it wasn't enough to get all the way to the top where all the money is. So I ended up almost break even.
Do you normally do afternoon only, or are you just getting warmed up for Thanksgiving?
Oh man, Thanksgiving, my favorite my favorite slate of the year. I guess we can tease and tell the listeners that we're going to have a whole bunch of Thanksgiving specific content. You and I will do it. We'll do a Thanksgiving show. We'll have some cross promotional stuff. Actually, I'll be doing again this year with some other sites. So more to stay tuned on that. More info to come. But yeah, no, I mean, I usually do an afternoon only. Usually, I'll throw one entry into it. I don't always play the main contest. A lot of times I'll do a single entry. But yeah, usually just kind of throw one entry into it that I built earlier in the day. I feel a lot of times people who play afternoon only are kind of chasing. They'll build a roster at 3:30, 3:45 Eastern, because their 1 p.m. slots on main slate have all done terrible. So they're just want to have a lineup that feels live, so they're just kind of building it on the fly at 3:45.
Mm-hmm.
So
I've never done that.
Sure you haven't. Me either. Never.
yeah, never done that. No, it's just you can feel completely dead going to afternoon games. It's well, if I'm going to watch these games sitting on my couch here, I might as well at least have some hope that, something good will happen. And I know, last week on the show, I don't even know if our lineup cashed, but I think the main point of last week's show was Brissett. I mean, and you said, you had 60% Brissett. In fact, most of the time I feel the lineup you build on this show, it's I'll check in with you. We'll text I'm looking the week before it was Daniel Jones. You're I'm 60% Daniel Jones. So it's a lot of times directionally where we go on the show. It's hard to say as it's Tuesday, obviously we're recording this Tuesday, what value is going to open up by the weekend. But directionally, looking at Jalen Hurts today, let's open this slate up and take a look. And while like we always do, kind of give an overview as I get into. But Stat, I know you obviously wrote your first look. That will be, by the time this goes live, that will already be live on the site. And will you be recording a video for that as well?
Yeah, I typically do my first look video Tuesday evening. So that'll be linked. I'm pointing one direction or another. We'll link that into this video.
Works, yeah.
So yeah,
or it'll be pinned in the comments. We'll put that in there too if it's not working. Lately the video links have been working very well. I need to research it. Anyway, so and where can people? We'll link it in the channel, but also just you're going to have content as well on your StatATL channel. Like coming up, and we're getting close to playoff best ball too. That's going to be around the corner. It's still a little ways.
Yeah, so I do a lot of content for best ball, like through 1 week season. For regular season best ball, I also do a lot of like playoff best ball content, which is I think a really fun contests that they do on both Drafters and Underdog are kind of the two main players. I think DraftKings may do it too, but. So yeah, if you don't already, would love if you'd follow, subscribe, whatever the right term is, to my it's like my personal YouTube channel that I just started maybe earlier this year. It's just StatATL. We could link it in the comment of this in the video as well. It doesn't have a ton of content on it yet, but a couple videos, along with my first looks, and in the next week or two, we'll start doing playoff best ball content as well.
That's right, man. Yeah, guys, the first look, a great piece. Like I said, Stat does a video as well. That can be the video. The first look piece is 1 week season, like he said. Videos on his channel. All right. So, looking at this slate, I'll go first, just a spot that I like, and then I'll toss it to you. I think that the Detroit Lions offense, again, those players are always pricey. Let me just look at Goff real quick. Gibbs is going to be popular. I think as like a one-off piece. It's always tough to stack this offense. So you really have to stack it with hoping that they score like 50 points or something like that. And then also if they score 50, a lot of times it is going to kind of those main pieces for the Lions. So I think that's definitely a spot that I like a lot this week is Detroit Lions at home against the Giants. Jameis Winston may be starting again for the Giants this week. So you never know if you could stack, if you wanted to try and stack both sides of that game and just have a lot of different pieces.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a spot that I like. I think motivation wise, Detroit was basically embarrassed on national TV Sunday Night Football this past week. So I think there will be a little extra motivation there to just go out and put up as many points as they possibly can. So that's a spot that I'll be circling this week as we kind of get into the latter stages of the week. What about you? What are your thoughts? And then as we get into this build, kind of spots you like, and then looking ahead to today's build.
Yeah, I like that Detroit call. Obviously Goff struggled on the road against Philly on Sunday night, as you called out, but his three best games this season have come against the defenses that you'd expect him to kind of excel at. His best games were against the Bengals, who have been kind of terrible and giving up yards to everybody. The Commanders and the Bears have been kind of generous as well. And those are the teams on his schedule. Those are the teams that you'd expect him to do, well at. And then, obviously they've got the Giants this week, and the Giants have, they allowed Dak and Bo Nix, Caleb Williams, Jalen Hurts twice, to top 25 fantasy points against them. So Goff at home, this is a spot I do like for Goff. You do get a little bit of salary help in the fact that Laporta is on IR, and you've got Brock Wright, who's been filling in at tight end.
Right.
Brock Wright is $3,000 if I'm remembering correctly, and he had I think 8 targets or 7 targets last week. He didn't do a whole lot with them, but he's kind of filling that Laporta role for 60%, 40% less salary. I think Laporte is usually like what, 4,500, $5,000, somewhere in that range. So for
Exactly.
$3,000 even, like, nothing wrong with that as like a value piece. There's a couple of interesting like value pieces at tight end this week. We're going to consider one or two of them probably in our build, just because as you alluded to, I do like the Eagles and the Cowboys game this week, and a lot, all of those pieces are on the pricier side. So gonna have to try to find some value. I love your call out there with Goff. I like Jacoby Brissett and McBride again this week. Like, I feel like we're a broken record, but once again, Brissett's now 5 games, over 20 points in all of them, facing the Jaguars, a team that quarterbacks have kind of smashed the last like 7 or 8 weeks. So, again, they kept his price at 5,300. So again, if you're telling me I'm going to get in the low 20s from Brissett again with a very obvious stacking partner and Trey McBride, who's got back-to-back 30-point weeks and, probably averaging 25 points a week since Brissett took over, like, I feel like that's a great spot. And then, I think that Joe Flacco's in a great spot again this week. He's going to be without his top wide receiver, but that just kind of condenses the offense a little bit. And, again, a spot we're going to consider is Noah Fant at, I think, 3,000 or 3,100. A guy I'm going to expect to see 6 to 8 or more targets, this week for so cheap. So a lot of options this week. But as we alluded to as kind of the lead-in, I think where I want to start this build is with Philly and Dallas. And I think I want to go with Jalen Hurts to start. Like, the Cowboys have kind of been a defense we've been targeting all year. That's not going to change for me this week. One of the stats I pulled out in my first look was that the Cowboys have allowed 3 or more touchdowns to Russell Wilson, who went for 473 and 3, Caleb Williams 310 and 4, Jordan Love 365 and 3, Bo Nix threw for like 250 yards and 4 touchdowns, Jacoby Brissett threw for 265 yards and 3 touchdowns, Bryce Young had 3 touchdowns, and then you had like Justin Fields, who was over 300 total yards and 2 touchdowns. Like, you've had a lot of strong days from opposing quarterbacks, and Jalen Hurts is just as good as any of those names that I read, off the list earlier. And so, I feel like he's a really strong option. He's at 6,600. I think he had like 24, 25 points when these teams met back in week 1.
Yep.
And so I like him there. And I feel like if this game environment is going to like really take off, it's going to be with some of the more explosive players. And so to me, that's, for me, generally, when I play a rushing quarterback like Jalen Hurts or a quarterback that has the rushing ability, I personally prefer a single stack because you're kind of like, for him to hit his ceiling, for him to get you 30 points, it's going to be with his legs, and he'll probably have to have a rushing touchdown or 2 for him to give you that 30, 35 point game. Yes. So if he's rushing in 2 touchdowns, it's hard for him to bring along 2 other pieces that aren't, 5, 6K or higher. Like, it's just hard for him to bring along 2 guys that score 25 points. So let's go Jalen Hurts, and let's go Devonta Smith in this. I think you could go AJ Brown. I think you could go Devonta Smith. They're like $300 apart. But I think Devonta Smith is kind of taken over as kind of the lead wide receiver in this offense. And so,
yep.
I think on this, if I'm assuming that Philly is going to continue to keep pushing here, and you're going to get, let's say their offense scores 30 plus points, I would expect Dallas to be scoring 21 or more, keeping this game going. And so, I think an interesting way to build this is to go with either multiple pieces, like to say, hey, I'm going to go George Pickens or CeeDee Lamb. I wouldn't go with both, because then you might as well play Dak Prescott. So I would say let's go George Pickens here. I mean, George Pickens has kind of been surprisingly, he's been the more explosive wide receiver. Like, he's got 3 games above 32 points, where I don't know that CeeDee Lamb has 1 game above 25. So just because what's happened in the past doesn't mean it's going to continue to happen. But I like this start. And I think that if you wanted to, you could add in Javonte Williams into this pool and make this be a 4-player block where you're basically playing this to be like a 35-31 game. I think that's totally viable. But I think that's not where I'm going to go on this build. So
love it.
I think we've got that strong correlation, and I do like that. I think I want to go with some more correlation here. I think if we go to defense, which we don't normally start defense this early, but if we go to defense, there is a mid-range defense that just absolutely jumps off the page to me. It's the Cleveland Browns at 2,900. They are on the road, but they're playing a Las Vegas team that has not looked good for weeks on offense. Giving up sacks, giving up turnovers every week. And so at 2,900, I think that they are an awesome play this week. And we are likely to get Shedeur Sanders starting for the Browns this week, which means I kind of want to lean into Quinshon Judkins. I feel like if this is an opportunity where the Browns defense is doing well, they are probably not going to be asking a ton out of Sanders. And you're looking 3 out of the last 4 games here, like 19 opportunities, 25 opportunities. The game against New England, only 12 opportunities. The week before that, 25 plus touches. Like, Judkins is staying actively involved, and for 6,000, I like him here in this spot. He does see some pass game work. I think likely in this spot to see 16, 18, 20 touches on the ground. So for 6,000, middle of the road matchup here against Vegas, I like this. I like this spot for Judkins.
Yeah, man, Judkins, I like him a lot. He hasn't been as efficient in terms of his yards per carry, but I think that just is more kind of the nature of the Cleveland offense a little bit. But I still feel like he does have that in him. He just hasn't had. I mean, he had earlier in the season had 23 carries for 110. He had 18 carries for 94 against Green Bay. He had that 1-3 touchdown game. I feel like he hasn't quite put together the multi-touchdown plus efficient running game where he's over 100 yards and a couple of touchdowns. So I mean, again, held back a bit by the Cleveland offense, absolutely. But the ceiling, I think, is higher than what even we see here from his game logs. Obviously, the floor is there too because, like, he could just average 3 yards a carry and not get a touchdown. But I think that against this very you saw Las Vegas on Monday night. Dallas could basically did whatever they wanted. So I think that's a great spot for him. I like this.
Yeah. And then I think we'll build with a little bit more correlation here. I think this is another spot where I will probably be more or less all in like I was last week on Trey McBride. So let's throw Trey McBride onto this build. He is expensive at 6,800, but to me, he gives you just as much upside and ceiling as any other $6,800 wide receiver or running.
8K player. I mean, you look at the scores he's been putting up. He's like an 9K player in terms of his production right now.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. And so where I want to go here, I want to even get a little bit more of like a mini stack, mini correlation, and in this as well, and fill out kind of our last running back spot. And it would be us, going to the Jacksonville backfield. And I think there's a strong possibility that Bashal Tutin were to miss this game upcoming, which basically means you're going to see Travis Etienne with 20 to 25 touches, priced down at 5,900 in a good matchup against Arizona. Like, I like this mini correlation. Allows us to kind of fill our running back spots with kind of mid-range and gives us some good flexibility kind of for the rest of our lineup. So I do like this with ETN.
Yeah, man. Love some ETN here. And again, I like the correlation. The correlation is just, we kind of just assume people know, but sometimes I find myself, like this last week with my Brissett stacks, I had 2 Brissett stacks, and I wasn't thinking, like, I didn't have as much time, and I'm like, why did I didn't have a single one with a 49ers bring back. It's like, if someone's having a good game and a good fantasy performance, obviously there are instances where a team just blows another team out, but a lot of times there's someone coming back, and it's like, you need to be thinking through, if McBride's having a huge game, who from the Jags is also playing well to push them to continue to keep throwing, or whatever it may be.
Yeah. And so we've got 4,700 left. Like, I feel like there's a couple of different ways that we could go from here. I think it's likely that Josh Jacobs is going to miss this week. So, you'll get Emmanuel Wilson at 5,300. I think his likeliest outcome is probably 15 to 20 DraftKings points. Like, he's not quite as talented as Jacobs, but this is a spot where I would expect him to touch the ball 15 plus times. So I feel like it's probably more of a floor play than a ceiling play, if I'm being honest. Generally on these things, we're trying to build for ceiling. So one of the games that we both kind of highlighted early on was that Detroit New York Giants game. And I think, obviously, with 9,300 left in salary, I can't get to Gibbs or Amon-Ra St. Brown. But I do think Jameson Williams is super interesting this week. Certainly with Laporta out, we continue to see him, he's got touchdowns in 3 straight games. Even if you include that week 7-0, his last 5 games, he's still probably averaging 16, 17 points a game, even with a 0. So, and obviously we've seen the upside for 20, 25 plus points. And he's kind of one of those guys that really only needs one play. So right. I like going Jameson Williams here. It allows us to kind of get a piece of that Lions team, which is probably going to have a team total of like 30 points. So it's one of those offenses that, because of how condensed they are with everything kind of going to 3 or 4 guys, like, I feel like if we're going to say they're going to score 4 or 5 touchdowns, I want to be able to try to account for them on most rosters is probably how I'm going to be thinking this week.
Yes.
I don't know that I see the Giants stopping them, because the Giants haven't really stopped anybody. So on the road, I feel like the Giants are going to have a hard time limiting the Lions to 21 points. I feel like 28 to 35 is in their most likely range of outcomes. So if they're scoring 4 or 5 touchdowns with a consolidated group of where that scoring is coming from, I want to account for it on most rosters. So
yes,
let's go Jameson here. 3,600 doesn't give us a ton to work with here. But as we did allude into, I feel like there's some good value here, specifically at tight end. So, I think Mason Taylor is really intriguing at 3,400. He's going to have Tyrod Taylor as his quarterback this week. Garrett Wilson is on IR. So Mason Taylor at 3,400 is the de facto wide receiver 1 in this offense. Yeah. I think either him or Adonai Mitchell, who they traded for, who's like 3,500. Like, all of their pass catchers are super cheap this week. So I think that's like a really interesting way that maybe people will get to later in the week is playing like Tyrod Taylor, Mason Taylor, and one of the pass catchers for the Jets. Let's just say it's A.D. Mitchell. Like, those 3 probably don't even cost $11,000 in salary. Like, it's kind of that same bet on that we made last week with Brissett, but it's $3,000 cheaper.
See real fast. Jets. Wait, why am I not? Sorry.
Yeah, they're in early 1 o'clock. First game of the slate against the Ravens.
So if I just go receiver, tight end, Mechie. Oh wow, yeah.
They're all so cheap. Tyra, I think you can build that stack for under 11,000 for 3.
That is crazy. Yeah.
So I think Mason Taylor is super intriguing. Doesn't really correlate with anything, not that needs to. but certainly a spot where I could very easily see 10 to 15 plus points or more. I think Noah Fant is super interesting as well. Again, we're going to expect the Bengals to be without Jamar Chase this week due to a 1-game suspension. And so I feel like Noah Fant, guy who's on the field a decent amount, gets targets. I would expect a similar range for Noah Fant to see probably 5 to 8 targets is his most likely outcome. And I think that 12 to 15 point range is very fair as an expectation, probably on the high side of what you would say is a median expectation. But, 12 to 15 points, well within range of outcomes. It's really just, does he catch a touchdown or not? I think either of those are fine plays, but let's go Mason Taylor in this build.
Let's do it. Already. And that closes it out. So the final lineup, the final build we landed on, an Eagles stack, Eagles Dallas with Jalen Hurts, Devonta Smith, and George Pickens as the bringback. Then you had Quinshon Judkins, Browns defense correlation, Travis Etienne, Jameson Williams, Trey McBride, of course, that's a must, and Mason Taylor. And that will wrap it up. Stat, any final thoughts, man, before we send this one off?
I think that if you wanted to make a change based on what we talked about earlier in the slate or on the show, you could pivot off of Mason Taylor to Noah Fant, and that extra $300 with the $200 that we saved could allow you to go off of Judkins, and I think gets you to Javonte Williams. I think.
Oh, look at that.
So If you wanted to build this way, you could really lean into that Dallas-Philly game with 4 pieces of construction. And so, that's kind of like, do I get 4 pieces of my roster right potentially by just getting one bet right? I don't mind that approach either.
No, I like that. 2 builds for the price of 1. Great stuff. Guys, he is StatATL. Stat, thanks for your DFS lineup wisdom as always. And guys, hope to see you at the top of the leaderboards. Stat, best of luck to you this weekend.
Same to you, Cheese. Thanks, man.
All right, guys, we'll see you later.